Hello friends, welcome to Xenia Coding Web Development Platform. In today's session, we are going to discuss with the topic of speech text reader. So I'm going to explain with this example, then you can able to understand. So here I'm just clicking this picture and I'm clicking this picture and I'm clicking this one and I'm clicking this one. So you can insert n number of images and their respective name, it will be displayed over here. So this is one part which we are going to create on the HTML, CSS and JavaScript. My second thing is I'm going to use my toggle text box. Under the toggle text box, I'm making as hello world, and you can have a list of respective things. I am making here as Microsoft Era English Indian, and I am making as read this text. So whatever the text which I am mentioning over here, it chooses a respective voice and it is converting on it. So we have inserted one is image with the text and the second is after typing the text, it is giving the voices to this. So when we are creating any web browser, in the sense, if we want to make on an effective basis like this kind, we can use the following source code. Did we see what are the source code is required to implement this project in Xenia platform? So on the coding part, I'm just going to make my link style sheet and which is of HR reference as style.css. Next, I'm going to create the title. So under the title, I'm making here as speech text. So this is my title, speech text reader. So next I'm going to move for my body part. So under my body part, I'm going to add the division classes. So under the division class, so I'm going to make it as container. So next I'm going to make their heading part. So under the heading part, I'm going to make it as speech text reader. So this is my heading part, H1, that is H1 part. Now after this, I need to add my button. Under the button ID, I'm going to make use of this toggle. So toggle, it is nothing but where the list of voices is displayed. No, for this I'm going to use a class which is of button and button which is of toggle. So we have created this one and just closing this tag. So next I'm going to move for my, I'm typing here as toggle text box. So I'm making a toggle text box, and after this I'm going to make it as division that is over here. So I'm making as division ID which is equivalent to text box, where I'm going to make their class as button. Maybe we can choose it as, again, yes, of course it could be the text box. Even my class should be as a text box. I'm just closing this tag. Again I'm going to open my division ID. So under the division ID, I'm making as close button. So where my class is, it is also as close. So I have done this and I'm making their symbol as capital X. Okay. So I'm just closing this division tag. Next I'm going to make their H3. So under the H3 I'm making as choose voice, which I am closing this tag. So next I am going to make their select ID, where I am making as voices. So under this voices I am just closing this part. And next I am making their text area. So under the text area ID I am making their text and making their placeholder, which is of enter text to be read, text to read, and I'm making as closing this tag. So whatever the text is required we will be placing over here. Next I'm going to create a button class, which is equivalent to I'm going to create a button. So under this button I'm making an ID which is of read, and I'm closing this one where I'm making as read text. So I'm just done with my closing part. So this division is over, and again I'm going to process my scripting basis. So for this scripting I'm going to create script source, which is equivalent to script.js. So this particular is created. So now the very important thing is we have inserted the HTML part. So next we need to insert the images. For each image it need to process on the scripting basis. For this we are going to write the functionalities. I'm just creating the file name. So the file name is created. Here I'm under the scripting part we are going to do a lot of functionalities, as such as I'm going to create the data, which is whatever the image is required I'm going to use on it on the scripting basis. On the continuation of this I'm going to create the data for each boxes and the text to speech, and I'm going to make their initial speech synthesize, and I'm going to make their get voices. Let's see and let me execute by one. So initially I'm going to make the first thing as constant. So under the constant I'm making here as constant main, which is equivalent to document, where it should select from my query selector, and it from the main. So next I am going to make my constant voices select. So under the voices select, it should select from the document, from the get element ID, where it should matches from the ID. So I am using as get element by ID, where I am making as voices. So on the continuation of this, I'm just making the constant text area, where I'm making it as, which is also the same, document dot get element by ID, which is of text, where it should process my text. So next I'm processing where on the constant of read button, this read button, it have to process my document dot get element by ID, where it should process from the read. So next I'm going to make their constant of toggle button. For this toggle button, I'm going to make it as a constant, and I'm making here as document dot get element by id, and I'm making here as toggle. So next I'm going to make it as constant of close button, which is I'm processing as document dot get element by id, and I'm making here as close. So this four things, this things which we have created as a constant basis. Next I'm making the constant data. These are all the images where we are going to use on it, and just continuing the functionality, opening the brace, and again I'm opening the brace. Since I'm going to insert the image, I'm making as image colon, and I'm just opening. I'm just inserting the thing. You can just go for the browser. So maybe I can show the example over here. Under the image, I'm making my text as I am happy. For this, we need to insert some happy images, no? So I'm just moving for my, here I'm just searching happy images. You can go ahead, you can choose any images that you want. Just right click on this, and you can click on the open new tab. Under this open new tab, it will lead to one next window or next tab. Just copy this HTTP link and insert on your Xenia platform. So this is one of the way where you can insert the images. So you can process until whatever the images is required, you can utilize it. So I'm just repeating this process. So you can able to see over here we have inserted the images. I'm just deleting this one, so it won't require it. So I have inserted the images like this. Similarly, see, I have created like happy, dog, foodie, children, parent, angry, want to visit temple, want to see boats, want to enjoy with the rain, and want to go for hill station, want to go for the college, want to go for grandma home. So you can create anything under this, and you can insert the images. So it is up to your convenience. And the continuation of this, I'm going to make their data should be set for each, and I'm making their box. So for each box I need, so that only I'm making it as create box, and I'm just closing one. Next we need to create the speech boxes. For this I'm making the function. So under the function I'm making it as create box, where it should process my item. So under the item I'm going to make it as the constant of box, which is equivalent to document, and it should create my element, which is of under the division basis. So I'm just closing this statement. Next I'm going to process, which should be also the constant. It should not change my image and their text. Whatever the things which we are inserted, no, that particular image and text should not be changed. I'm just fixing one where it should equivalent to my item. So I'm making there it is equivalent to my item. And so next I'm going to process with their respective boxes. For box dot class list where it should add with my box. Maybe since it is a string, I'm just want to add with double quote, and I'm making, okay, this is over. So next I'm going to make there a box with under my inner HTML, that is box dot inner HTML. I am making to as equal, opening this one, where it should process with my image source, which is should get the values of dollar, and it should process with my image and it should process with an alteration of text where it all should be as a fixed one. For this I'm making here as dollar text. So this is over. So I'm just closing this part and I'm closing this tag. So next I'm going to make the paragraph. So under the paragraph of class, if anything is required, you can add the information or else you can skip this one. So I'm just adding as an information and I'm making it as this one, and if required you can add the text, and I'm closing this paragraph. So this is over. So next we need to process the box add event listener. So that is box dot add event listener. For this I'm going to make the click. So once the click is done, in the sense it need to process a functionality which is nothing but, I'm just closing this link, and it should process of set text message, which is equivalent to my text, and I'm making there as speak text where it should speak the text effect. So on the continuation of this we need to add an active effect. So for this I'm going to make as box dot class list. So this is, I'm going to make it up. So I'm adding as box dot class list, So once it is done, in the sense I'm making it should be add, and I'm making it as active. So under the active basis I'm just closing this statement. So next I'm moving as set time out. So under the set time out I'm using the functionality, so where I'm making as box class list dot remove, and I'm making as active. So maybe I'm just deleting this one. So just closing this functionality, and again I'm opening this functionality. So under this I'm making it as box dot class list. It should remove, and it should active, at 2, comma 800. So this is your choice. This is nothing but the second where we want to process. So next I'm going to make their main dot abundant child, where it abundant, it is nothing but it used to join with my boxes. So this is done, and I'm closing this statement. Next we need to initialize the speech synthesis. To initialize this speech synthesis, I'm going to use it as where it should be the constant message, which is equivalent to, I'm going to declare the function as new speech synthesis, which is of utterance. So this particular functionality I'm just adding. So this is over. Next we need to process their voices. For this I'm going to make it as let voices is equivalent to my function. It should get the voices. And I'm making as voices is equivalent to speech synthesis, where it should get my voices, and I'm closing this functionality. Next I'm going to process my voices for each, where it should get my voices, and it should process my functionality of constant option, which is equivalent to document dot create element, where I'm making as option. So this is over. Next I'm going to make their option value. Option dot value is equivalent to, I'm making as voice dot name, and I'm closing this. Next it should be processed under my inner text. Option dot inner text, I'm making as assigning this value $, and I'm making as voice name, and it should add with my $ of voice language. So it should enclose with a double quote. So next I'm going to process with my voice select, which should also append my child of that particular options. So I'm just closing this statement. So this is what the overall of coding part, that is JavaScript part. Next I'm going to explain with the CSS part. So on the CSS part, I'm just making the box sizing as border box, and background and body could be as #FFEF. Maybe you can choose some other color which is of E. And I'm making the font family as Lato and sans serif. Minimum height is 100 virtual height, and margin is 0. Next I'm making their H1 of text alignment as center, and making the container as margin R2 and padding as 20 pixel. On the continuation of this, I'm just making the button of cursor as pointer, background color as darks almond and border as 0 and border radius as 4 pixel. If required, even you can choose or change this color. Next, I'm making a font size as instead of 16, I'm just making as 20 pixel, and I'm making a padding as maybe of 10, and button activity transform scale as 0.98, and button toggle as display block, and margin as autumn, margin bottom as 20 pixel. Next, for the text boxes, I'm making their width to be as 80 percentage, and position as absolute, and top could be as I'm changing as 40, and I'm making here as left to be as 60, and I'm making the transform of minus 50 percentage of minus 800 pixel. Again, for the background color, I'm changing as ash 333, and the color of ash triple left, padding is 20 pixel, and border radius is 5 pixel. On the transition also, I'm making as 1 second easy in out. So next, for the text box show, I'm making their transform as translate of 50 percentage. On the text box select, I'm making a background color as dark almond, border as 0, color as F, font size as 12 pixel, height as 30 pixel, and width as 100 percentage. Next, for the text box of text area, where I'm making the border is 1 pixel of solid, border radius of 4 pixel, font size as 60 pixel, padding as 8 pixel, margin as 15 pixel, width as 100 percentage, and height as 150 pixel. Next, for the text box of button, where I'm making their width is 100 percentage, and I'm making their close of float right, text alignment of right, cursor to be as pointer. Next, I'm making their main display grid template columns of repeat, grid cap of 10 pixel. Next, for the class of box, where I'm making their box shadow of 0, 2 pixel, 10 pixel, and RGBA. So border radius as 5 pixel, per cursor as pointer, display as flex direction as column, overflow as a hidden, transition as a box shadow 0.2 ease out. Next, for the active, I'm making their box shadow as 0, 0, 10 pixel, 5 pixel, and dark almond. So on the box image, I'm making as width is 100 percentage, or object fit as cover, height as 200 pixel. Next, for the box information, I'm making the background color as dark almond, color as F, font size as 10 pixel, letter spacing as 1 pixel, text transform as uppercase, margin as 0, padding as 10 pixel, text alignment as center, height as 100 percentage. So we have done so far all the thing. Even on the scripting part, I have used the respective URL on all the images. Let me see on this platform how it is executing. So whatever the images I have inserted, it is displaying over here. You can insert n number of images. I'm just clicking this. I'm just clicking the So this is images and their respective text has been enhancing. Next, I'm going to use my toggle text box. Under the toggle text box, I'm typing. So maybe I'm just making as read text, and I'm choosing I'm typing one more text. Again, I'm choosing. So I'm just closing this button. So I hope you have understood the concept of speech text reader, we have done all the thing by using the simple concept of HTML and CSS and JavaScript. We can see one more interesting video on the next session. Until support this video. Thank you so much.